G'day guys, back with the Outer Circle, and today I'm not in the best of moods. And the reason I'm not in the best of moods is I am really sick of getting messages like these, and these are just from last night. Okay? So let's try and put these around so you can just have a quick read of some of the great messages that we can get. Not a single one of these things was said in the videos. Do people watch the videos? Do people actually watch the videos? Why does every 30k guy even talk about 40k? Just take your resin, which can kill you, can play your overly expensive and niche board game, stop trying to ruin the fun for others. The fuck is this moron on? The Outer Circle, it's funny how you make toxic, hate-filled videos about Lion, but you never even gave Games Workshop credit on new Terminators. You are never happy. The Outer Circle, a channel about Warhammer 30k, seething about Warhammer 40k. God, I hate Horus Heresy players. They literally can take something as cool and fun as Space Knights and ruin it. Actually, he's not in original armor. Why is this helmet different? I hate him. Dude, please consider touching grass. Not a single one of these arguments was actually made by me on this channel. People come in and they say things like this because they're idiots. They are legitimately idiots. And we get these sort of messages all the time. And look, I don't get annoyed that I'm getting hate messages as such. What annoys me is that if it was up to you cunts, this is how you would rate every release. 10, 10, 10, fucking 10, 10, 10, 10. And you know what? Statistically, it can't be that fucking high for everything, can it? So, we're going to explain how critique works today, because some of you morons out there on the internet don't quite understand how it works. This here is the salt you always accuse me of having. Today you're getting it in copious amounts. When we rate something, right, when I review a miniature, it's exactly that. It's a review. And essentially we're looking at two things: quality and importance. The quality of the miniature, what do I think of it overall? Is it a good looking miniature? You know, is it proportioned correctly? Does it make sense? Does it look good? Importance of the miniature. Where does it stand in the scheme of the game? Is it really important to the setting of the game to get this miniature at this point in time? Okay. So I rated the Lion right about here. About 5.5, 6. Just mediocre. I said, look, it's okay. It's okay for what it is. You know, we've got a high measuring bar set by the 30k Primarchs, who I naturally will gravitate towards. I don't hate the model. And yet, apparently, that's where I need to consider touching grass. Because I made hate-filled videos about the Lion. Because that's where I rate this fucking model. Well, if that's where the Lion sits, what about some others? Well, I'm going to use Horus, right? The new Horus Ascended. So quality-wise, I'm going to put him about here. About 8.5, 9. He's a relatively good model, right? I think we can all agree. Looks good. But there are a couple little things they did with the design that I'm not a huge fan of. Okay? But it's definitely a really good design. And the things that I'm not a fan of are like, you know, little blemishes, little, you know, 5% here of things I don't like versus 95% I love. So it gets a very high rating on quality. But on importance, he's about a 2. Why? Because it's not necessary. We already had a Horus model, and we've got Yagadai Khan doesn't have a bike. We don't have an Emperor model yet. There are a ton of miniatures missing from the different legions. So the model importance-wise is just not. So that's how I would rate it. And so your overall rating for the miniature is going to sit exactly in the middle between those two thoughts, isn't it? Right, now we're starting to get somewhere. Let's take something like the Typhon. Beloved siege tank, looks sexy as hell. 10 out of 10. Plus, we know these new plastic kits go together really well, as they should. So why would I rate it anything else? But importance to the setting. It's a Lord of War. You're not taking any below 2,000 points, and this is a setting that's missing a bunch of infantry options. So it's about a 3 or a 4. Yeah, you'll take them, but you're not really going to take them a lot. So when I review a lot of the vehicles lately on the channel, well, the vehicle is going to sit somewhere around, 7 or so. Let's split the difference between a 3 and a 10. Let's say about a 7. So a little bit above average. Then we're going to look at something like the Kratos. Well, looks-wise, I think it's a bit of a melon, a bit of a lemon. And importance-wise, it was not needed at all because there were already vehicles in the setting. So the overall rating for the Kratos is going to sit about here, about a 2. Piece of crap, don't care for it, right? This is how critiquing miniatures works. Because I am sick of people coming on and go, you're salty, you hate everything. I don't. The problem is you pull from the videos what you want to pull. You pulled that I hate the lion because I put him here. Bad is here. Really good is up here. Passable. Mediocre. Okay. Not the greatest thing ever. That's where I put him. Right? And that's where he is on the scale. That is not hate. Hate is here. Hate, okay, is where this thing sits. That I hate. What about this? Tactical Marine. Well, quality? I think about a 9. There are definitely things that they could fix. Specifically, the torso front is molded to the legs. It means that changing it out to put different torsos on is not great. And I really don't like the split shoulder pad. They could have put cores into the die that allowed it to cast the shoulder pad in all 3 dimensions instead of 2, but they got a bit lazy with the die design, and to be honest, it would cost probably about another $10,000-$15,000. So, minor problems. And maybe, the eyes on the helmet could be a little bit different. Sure. But importance-wise, I couldn't go lower on the scale than a 1, because we already have 2 tactical squads in the game system. So my overall rating, therefore, if we split the difference, about a 4, maybe a 5, if we're being generous on the new tactical Marines. And then people get really shitty. Oh, you're bragging on the biggies for, man. I think they look great. No, you idiot. There are so many things missing in the system. Why am I going to praise this miniature? I'll give it on looks, but as a consumer advocate, you cannot just praise something on looks alone. If we did that for everything, like think of movies, okay? Is every movie that comes out of Hollywood 10 out of 10, it's winning all the Oscars? No, it can't be, can it? Right? You know it's not. Alright, new Terminators. Ooh, the new Terminators. Where do these guys sit? I'll tell you right away. I think they're a 10 out of 10 on looks. But where do I think they sit on importance? I think they sit up around an 8 or a 9. Okay? Because the setting could definitely use more Terminators. But with the scale change and such to these new Terminators, they are a little bit, this may play into quality, so maybe I drop it slightly in quality. They are very, very big. They're much bigger than Cataphracti and Tartarus are, judging off them next to Primaris Marines. Primaris Marines are already the size of, if not slightly bigger than Cataphracti Terminators, and these guys are half a head taller again. So they're the biggest Terminator by far, which is okay, but if I put them side by side on the tabletop in Horus Heresy, they're really going to stand out. And these are a kit you can use in the Horus Heresy. The rules are located in the Legacies of the Age of Darkness PDF. You can find it over on Warhammer Community. But the miniature is very good. So for who was that person that complained that I hadn't spoken about how good the new Terminators were? Never gave Games Workshop any credit. There's credit. It's coming, but you have to be patient. It doesn't all come in the same video. I didn't do an Adepticon rundown where I spoke about every miniature revealed on the day, did I? Right, then we get something like this. Where do you think this Marine sits? Probably about here, in all honesty. It's not a 1. It's not hideous. The weapon is hideous, but the weapon could be changed out. Cut that weapon arm off, put a standard crack missile launcher from 30k onto there, one of those little underslung ones or something, would look really, really good. Okay? The Primaris miniature base model is fine. It's the weapon that lets it down. So I'm really rating the weapon a 1, but I'm rating the Marine like a 7 or an 8. Split the difference. Let's call it a 3. Right? Maybe a 3.5. It's not that terrible. And importance-wise, it's probably around here, because in 40k, there are plenty of alternatives to this. Right? Another example of something. Let's take something like Logan Grimnar's Sleigh. So where do you put Logan Grimnar's Sleigh? Well, he's going to be up at a 10 for importance to his faction. For the Space Wolves, very, very important model, Logan Grimnar. But the sleigh is awful. Do I rate it a 2 though? No, I can't rate it a 2 because, well, he can at least be removed from the sleigh and played on foot. So he actually sits up probably around a 6 or a 7 because we'll split the difference. Logan Grimnar himself in his Terminator armor, probably an 8 or 9. Sleigh, a 2. So, split the difference. Let's say he's around a 5. Right in the middle. Play him on foot, right? This is how you have to rank things. Like, you people who comment on my videos saying, oh, you're just negative, you hate every release. I don't hate every release. But when I talk about a miniature, like these guys here, am I more likely to talk to you about its looks or about where it sits, you know, on the scheme of importance, right? I'm probably going to talk to you about where it sits on the scheme of importance. I didn't spend a long time dwelling on the looks because you hopefully have functioning eyes and a functioning brain, can look at it and go, you know what, that looks like a well-made miniature. It looks correct to the setting, you know, it's not covered in a bunch of extra shit that it didn't need. It's perfectly passable as a model, right? So that's fine. So when I critique something, we're going to critique it. We're going to point out the flaws with this thing. What is going wrong here with the miniature? That's what's important when it comes to talking about models. It doesn't matter what your personal feelings are for something, because your personal feelings, if there was another graph, a third graph on here, instead of quality and importance, there's one that was just labeled fun, you could stick it up at 10 on the fun meter. But the miniature, for me at least, when I do my critique, he's sitting somewhere around here. And importance-wise, the line, I actually think he sits about here, because I'm not a big fan of bringing back the 40k Primarchs in general, for those who were curious about my thoughts on that. So, that's how critique works. And this channel is not here to blow smoke up Games Workshop's ass and say, this release is amazing, this release is amazing, this release is amazing. I do those videos from time to time. I did one on the Chaos Warriors in Fantasy. So, you know, they're really knowing the releases. I did another one where I spoke about just how good a job they've done with the Lizard Men. Okay, and I really want to do a video just on that topic about how good Age of Sigmar is doing with things like the Lizard Men right now. They're doing a fantastic job of reimagining that range. Okay, so they'll get all the applause in the world for that, because that is what I, as the consumer advocate, the person advocating on behalf of you guys who are purchasing the product and playing the game and buying the expensive books, I want to encourage the company that, yes, this is the direction I think you should be going in, because I think this works best for the community. Okay? I think that's a pretty fair stance to take. And instead, I'm getting lumped with comments about, oh, yeah, you just hate everything. You just hate it. You just hate it. Like, fuck. Like I said, if it was up to the people making some of these comments, everything sits here. Every single thing sits here. Because you like it, right? And that's why it all sits up here, because you like it. Not because it is 10 out of 10, top tier, deserves to be at the top. It's because you lack the ability to separate emotion from critical assessment. You are the sort of person who lacks the maturity to do so, and that sounds really harsh. But you know what? Some of you need to hear it. Because I'm sitting here trying to fairly talk about these things and telling you why I come to the conclusions I do in the videos, because I'm trying to be open and honest and upfront. When I did a video the other day talking about how I rank Marine Legions, and I used Imperial Fists as an example, because a lot of people are like, why does he always hate on the Fists? I'm like, well, here you go. Here is how I assess the strengths of the Legion and why I think this Legion is doing so well. And it's a test you can replicate at home in order to assess the strengths of other Legions. And I'm going to do another video on that soon, using the Salamanders, a Legion I play consistently, so that you can see this is how he ranks them. So hopefully, instead of people turning around and going, oh, he's just salty, you turn around and go, I understand the methodologies that he's using because he thinks like a rational human adult. But no, I'm not entitled to that. No, I have to sit here on every release and praise it, because grown adults get shitty that their toys don't get all called 10 out of 10. So I'm a little bit pissy today, because I'm going out of my way trying to create this content for people, and I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. I'm sitting here going, if I explain these things to you, hopefully you will understand better how to critique these things for yourself. And rather than working with me on that, people are just turning around and acting in bad faith and saying that I'm acting in bad faith, which is even more frustrating. Like, what more can I give you than something like this chart to explain the rationale behind things? I will rate something highly on the chart if it deserves to be there. I mean, this thing didn't get bottom tier. This thing is sitting here. It's sitting at a 3 on the chart. But just, people, come on, work with me here. Not every model could be 10 out of 10, okay? There's going to be a fair and even spread of miniatures. So my question to you is really this. This is probably the model, Mr. Parachute Launching Gun here, Mr. T-shirt gun, right? This is probably the model that has been the most divisive released in a little while. I think that's a pretty fair statement to make. All right? So let's meet on that middle ground. If this is a divisive model, but only divisive enough that people are not all 10 out of 10 taken with it, what level of shit does something have to be before you'll say it's shit? Just openly to the 40k community. Like, I'm getting the feeling at this point, I could literally shit on a base and serve it to you, and as long as I slapped a Games Workshop logo on it, you go, not bad, smells a bit off, 6 out of 10. It can't all be that high, okay? You have to separate your love for the franchise and actually, observe, look at things rationally, just for a moment, and try and assess things on their own merits. There is a middle ground here, somewhere, and you can meet me there, I'm sure. And like I said, something like a Horus Ascended here, 9 out of 10, but a 2 for importance, because it's just not needed, right? And can you disagree with that assessment? Can you not say, gorgeous model, but there's already a Horus, so there's already a bunch of other shit that needs to be added to the game still? Those are fair critiques. It is not salt, it is not hate, it is not vitriol. It's not, you're pissy that the Lion doesn't have the same helmet in 30k. Hey, guess what, fuckwit? Never complained about his helmet. Never complained about that model's helmet on the video. The only thing I said about his helmet was I said, one of his 40k helmets out of his 4 head designs, I said one of them has some organic shapes to it, very smooth curves on the winglets, which is a bit at odds with all of his very sharp-edged gothic armor. That's not hate. That is about as soft as criticism can go, you fucking Philistine. Anyway, that's it. That's 20 minutes of solid rant. So do with it what you will. Stick my opinion up your ass for all that it matters. I don't care. I've explained to you the methodology of ranking miniatures based on looks when you see them now, okay? So hopefully we don't have to sit down and have this discussion again because, well, frankly, we're not going to have this discussion again. I just won't broach the topic. But in a game system that is constantly spurning out shit, churning it out, right? We cannot be rating everything out of 10. It just doesn't make sense logically. And I am the first to admit when something is technically good. Hello? Typhon tank, technically very good quality. Happy to rate it a 10. But I'm looking at it in the importance of the system because there are finite resources, finite releases happening. Why would we try and rank everything at the tippity fucking top? We need to prioritize shit. And for all of you out there who are going, oh, I don't care, I don't see the problem, there are a bunch of legions and a bunch of rights of war that are unplayable because they lack the miniatures for it. Unless someone wants to go and spend a ton of money at Forge World on their resin, which can kill you, so we can play our overly expensive niche board game. There are all of these players out there who love Blood Angels and want to play a Blood Angels. I'm losing my rights of war in my frustration here. They want to play a Day of Reckoning, all right, or a Day of Revelation list. Their right of war for their legion, and they want to take a bunch of jump marines, a bunch of assault troops, and they cannot do it because the only assault troops available to them are expensive resin ones over at Forge World right now that are slightly different scale to a lot of the new plastics that have been released, and that's the only way they can play their legion. Is advocating on their behalf, which is exactly what I'm doing. I don't play Blood Angels. It doesn't mean shit to me. Right? But advocating on their behalf and saying, hey, these guys have a legitimate problem here. They can't play their legion. And that's a bad thing. I'm the bad guy here. And people are turning around in the comments and saying, why can't you just be happy that you got a plastic tank? Like, the fuck are they going to do with a Typhon? Two is what they can put in their army. 2, ever. And that's, to take 2, you'd be sitting at least a, 2,200 point game, if not more. And that's if they wanted to fill a quarter of their points with just the Typhon tank. Like, no one is doing that, and it's not even that good in this edition as a vehicle. And yet I'm ruining the fun for others when I point this very, to me, obvious fact out. So for all these people saying, consider touching grass, I think you need to consider growing the fuck up and learning how to take adult critique. And stop acting like a jaded ex-wife or something. There is a fucking issue here in the releases. Accept it, okay? Shit can't all be a 10 out of 10, and there is no requirement in life of positivity for the sake of positivity. I'm Mac with the Outer Circle. And hey, if you want these comments, go have a look for them. They're in every comment section on every video. See you all in the next one.